Welcome back to art. In the 60s and 70s, Andy Warhol elevated the printed image. And he repeated and repeated and repeated images, creating high art. Now we are going to do that today, but we are going to use a foam plate, foam printing. You're going to need a piece of foam, and that comes in a variety of sizes and can be cut down. I bought these embossing tools, but I found that they were too sharp. So I used a pencil before finding a piece of wood and sharpening it down so it's not too sharp, and using that works better. You're going to need to have some acrylic paints. Well, actually Speedball ink works better, but I don't have any, so I'm using acrylic paint, Posca markers, acrylic markers, and a photograph of yourself. I had a photograph printed up and photocopied, so big. Let's take a look at the video. These are the materials you need for student-friendly printing. Please feel free to take a screenshot. I photocopied a black and white image of myself, and as you can see here, I traced around my foam print to ensure that my photograph and the foam print are the same size. Then I shaded using pencil on the back, and I'm going to now attach this image back onto the foam plate using masking tape at the top and the bottom to steady the image. Now, using a pencil that's sharp but not too sharp, I am then tracing over my image with the aim to have this image come through on the foam plate at the back. Hopefully a lot of the indents will be seen, but once you take off the image, you'll realize that some of those areas need to be gone over again with a pencil or an embossing tool. If it's not deep enough, when you use ink, you will not see the image. Now I use a tray at the bottom, and I'm going to trace around my plate onto the tray and trace around the paper I'm going to use. This will ensure that my prints are printed in the same place each time and line up. So you can see here I've started with white and I'm using black paper. And I did that because I wanted the black detail to come through. But I'm going to use multi-colors. So I want everything to line up. I also number each image. I created 4 images, so each image is either 1, 2, 3, or 4 out of 4. After each color, I will then remove a part of the foam plate. You can see here I've removed the eyeglasses, and then there are other areas I removed. So the next color I use will leave those areas exposed on my original print. Remember to keep yourself safe when you're using an X-Acto knife and keep your fingers out of the way. I also recommend a cutting board so that you preserve your table. So the next color I chose was a bright green. So I put the paint out on a piece of paper next to my print, and with a brayer I make sure that I evenly cover my brayer with paint and then pop it onto the foam plate before printing. Now remember those marker lines? This is where it's really important because it keeps the print aligned. I forgot to mention that when I'm rolling paint or ink onto the foam plate, I do have a piece of cartridge paper underneath. In between each color, I wipe down my plate and brayer with a wipey. Just be careful, some of those areas are quite delicate. Again, repeat the process of cutting out some of your foam plate. The next color I chose was pink, and I think this works quite well. It works better with ink because the color blocks out better, but acrylic paint also works well. My first print didn't work like I wanted it to. It didn't balance. I needed to remove the mouth, which is what I did then, and went back and kept printing. That's better. So now it's time to wipe down my print and cut the rest of the face out, leaving just the background. And you'll notice here that I've used a pencil and gone in and added lines to the background, just for some details. So the whole process now is finished with this beautiful turquoise, and this will form the basis of the background. I think it works really well. The details might not be as precise or clear as, say, for example, using lino. So looking at getting some of those details put back into your print, you can use Posca markers and acrylic markers. Also, you're trying to get it to look a little more like Andy Warhol's prints, particularly like his Marilyn Monroe and his portrait prints. So Posca markers work really well. You can add all sorts of different patterns. You can add highlights, you can go around the outside and outline the image, whatever works for you. Hopefully all 4 of your images look a little bit different, so it adds some variation and some interest to your finished artwork. I've also included some student work here so you can see what they can create. Okay, let's get printing.